Assalamu alaikum, everyone, once again, sorry. And welcome to Ali 637, Building Quranic Cues Using Themes and Everyday Items. My name is Najma, and I have with me my favorite super creative partner, Sabira Rashid-Juma, as always. And we're very happy to welcome you to this course, especially on a special day like this where we're preceding, inshallah, the Wiladat Eve of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who is one of the Quran and Natiq. And we always mourn for him in the months of Muharram and Safar. I think it's only fair for us to gift him on his birthday by doing something practical, because we owe it to him that and his sacrifice that we have this the message of Allah in this holy book present with us today. We shall dedicate this session to him and of course to the Imam of our time, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And with that, I just wanted to remind everyone that this is an interactive course. It's a hands-on course. So we're hoping that you've set aside everything and you have a copy of the Quran with translation on you so that you can enjoy this expedition with Sabira and myself, inshallah. Okay. On to you, Sabira. Sabira, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We thought we'd start off today's lesson with a little activity to get ourselves into the mood and get ourselves thinking and get some interaction going, hopefully. So we have this to start with, and you can pop in your answers into the chat, or you can unmute if you'd like. What is a common theme that you can find when you see these three pictures?
Okay, so Sabra, I see Maher Ramadan, Shahr Ramadan. Obviously, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Anybody else with another creative thought? Signs of the Almighty. Thank you, Sister Arifa.
Like that.
Laylatul Qadr, Suratul Qadr. Interesting.
It's amazing when you put minds together how there's so many different thoughts that are coming up. Like we hadn't thought of some of these.
Yes, exactly.
Any other thoughts anybody else has? Benefit?
Yes.
Yeah. Love that.
I think, Sabra, you were talking about how it's beneficial to humankind, right?
Yeah, yeah. Different wording, but same meaning, yeah.
Same meaning, yes.
Okay. All right, shall we move on to the next one?
Sure. You want to stretch it now or shall we stretch it later?
What do you mean by?
Do you want to stretch the theme right now? Like,
how
is it beneficial to humankind?
Yeah, okay, let's go through that. If the person who had the thought that this is items that are all beneficial to humankind, would you be willing to come on the mic and just explain how you find each thing as beneficial? So how did you think of that as a common theme? Or even if you want to type it, that would be fine. Okay, so the first one, the Quran has so many lessons. Yeah, definitely. So more of a, especially from a spiritual perspective is what we were thinking about. The Quran has got so many benefits. Dates have lots of benefits, especially for our health. Yeah, and we use the moon to distinguish months, help ourselves understand time of year, and even to use it as a guiding light, right? People used to use that as a way to help them travel and navigate. Okay. We had some other answers. Laylatul Qadr, Suratul Qadr. Does anybody want to expand on that, how they thought that these three items matched with that?
I guess it's a linking from one theme to another theme, right? Like when we're stretching it, it's like the month of Ramadan, and then the most important night in the month of Ramadan is Laylatul Qadr, right? So I'm guessing it's like, again, I'm just guessing on behalf of the people who wrote it down, that
Yeah.
it's
Laylatul Qadr is the span of our whole lifetime.
yes, thank you, Auntie Batul, that's amazing. Dates and crescent to show the month in which the Quran was sent down. Fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome. I like that.
Amazing.
Okay. Now I'm going to move on to the next one.
Sure.
All right. What theme could you find from these three images? And again, we'll probably have lots of different answers. Worship. Definitely the first one that came to my mind as well.
Sabra, how do you worship your iPhone?
Yeah, I think the fact that we reach for it so often and are so addicted to it is really a type of worship.
It's so important in our lives, right? Like it holds that importance in our life, and that we can't do without it. Interesting. Connection. Do you want to expand on it? How do you find connection as a theme in this? It's a very interesting one, but I'd just like you to expand. Feel free to unmute yourselves and say something if you'd like. Okay, brilliant. So things you spend time with to find meaning. Anything else? Anyone else has any other thoughts? Okay, linking to something higher. So it all depends, like some of these items, like if we're using it in the right way or are we misusing it, right? So the very same iPhone, Diva's on iPhone, I like that, Auntie Batul. So we can use the same thing in a positive way, right? Like there's so much we can do on our phone that will help us link, and it will actually be a form of worship, or it can go in the opposite direction. It can be something like where it's become our idol, and it 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 holds more like priority than God or than our worship, right? And the prayer mat, obviously, right? It helps us to connect, and that's the time that we actually set aside um, to pray and to worship. Can move on, Sabra.
Okay. All right, this is the last one. What theme can you find from these three items?
Okay, I think Auntie Batul is still talking about um, the previous slide, Sila Raham, connecting to relatives. Yes, exactly. So again, something that can be used positively. And on the flip side, when we're distracted, so even with the musalla, it's supposed to be for worship, for prayers, but we can use it on the other way to like to be distracted. Okay, so on to this slide. Beauty.
Yeah, go ahead.
Things people have been able to make. Yes, so something that made multiple items linked to each other to appear as one. Beautiful. Yeah, so one person, I'm guessing that that's what you mean, Sister Fatima, that when one person is dressing up, and yes, adornment. Awesome. Creative, yes, you can be very creative in how you dress up, and that's what we see when we go for Kushali, and that's what we will see tonight, Sabira. All the creative ways of dressing up. Okay.
Okay. Should I go to the next slide?
Yeah. So the idea of sharing these, I don't know if everybody is able to see Sabira's slide. I'm seeing a mix of two slides together.
Really? Oh dear. Let me see.
Yeah, like we can see. Okay, yeah. All right, perfect. Yeah.
Better? Okay.
So the idea of bringing these items up was basically to show that there's so many different ways that we can link everyday items, right? And combine it into a theme to connect to the Quran, right? So some of these things may explicitly be mentioned in the Quran, or some of them will help us connect to something that is um, available in the Quran. So the objective of this course was, number one, for us to connect our common day-to-day objects, events, life situations to verses of the Quran. And we will like walk through how we can do that. Okay. Number two, to stretch our thinking, to expand. So once we've looked like at these common day-to-day items or life situations, how are we able to stretch our thinking? So this exercise that we went through in the beginning, it was amazing how there's one theme that comes to mind right away, but then when we stretch our thinking, there's so many other aspects that can come from it. And mashallah, the Quran is like filled with all these messages, right, that we can extract um, using these themes. Number three, enjoy the process. It's when we know that all this is available and that we can actually go on a Quranic scavenger hunt and see, okay, so what is Allah talking about adornment? What is he talking about Ramadan? What is he talking about worship? Or what is he talking about dates for that matter, right? um, and it's amazing how much we will find in the Quran, and then that particular message itself will lead us to other things that we would never have thought existed in the Quran. Right? This exercise makes it very much fun and not a boring way of just reading the Quran traditionally the way we used to read. Right? And once we've done that, obviously, we have this whole new, renewed, refreshed outlook and a new perspective. Right? So I may have read a verse about dates, for example, and not thought of it in connection to all these other things. But now when I do that, I have filled, I have added on to my, verses bank of all the verses of the Quran, and it gives me a refreshed outlook on the message that Allah is trying to convey. Let's move on to the next one, Sabra.
Okay. All right. So
The
why have we?
same thing's happening again. You may wanna. Yeah. Okay. We can see it now.
Okay. All right. So why have we chosen to study by theme? So for one, we felt like a lot of the times, many of us might have grown up by using the Quran very traditionally, maybe reading from beginning to end, or reading a certain surah that we know is recommended, and just focusing on that. It's at least for myself, it's not a common thing that we've grown up with, to study the Quran by going through themes or looking at the index of the Quran. And we're going to go through that a little later on. So we feel like this is a bit of a new way to come at the Quran, to come to study the Quran. And the second reason is there's so much work that has been done by other scholars and other people who have really spent their lives studying the Quran, and they have compiled all this information to help us reach different parts of the Quran. Like if we wanted to study a certain topic, Allah doesn't necessarily put it in one chapter. There's information that's spread out all over the place. So people have spent time gathering that information and putting it together for us. So it's really great opportunity for us to take advantage of that. And in fact, we can see so clearly when we stop to look at the index or the list of topics. It's so clear of what the main themes are. You'll be able to see how many verses have been allotted to a certain topic. It's really quite fascinating and interesting to see it that way. And yeah, we just get to discover what is there from that perspective and from that aspect. So we thought this would be a really nice way. And yeah, we find it to be quite interesting. As Najma said, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt. And you'll see as we go on further what we mean by that. Okay. Can you see this time?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we thought we'd start off with talking about how we can take a look at these different themes in the Quran. So the easiest way might be to use your hard copy Quran and go turn to the back, and there is an index usually at the back of the Quran. So whichever copy you have, you'll probably find that there are very different looking indexes depending on whose Quran you're using. In fact, these websites that I've put up here, we'll stop to take a look at a couple of them, but they all have set it up very differently. You will find a theme in one index and you might not find it in another one. You might find an item in one of them and not in another. So it's really nice to have a different variety of resources so that you're able to cross-reference, cross-check, and different people have obviously done their work in different ways, so they've come up with different lists. Let's go to, I think if I stop for a minute and show the website. 1 second. Okay, so this is the first website, and they've sorted out alphabetically here. You can see it's quite a lengthy list. And this is a really great way to search, just because it's so convenient to have it online, to easily skip through and find whatever you're looking for by alphabet, or even just to stop and to read through the list is quite interesting. Look, you can stop to see how much has been said about charity. You just get an idea just by looking over here. Children, there's you'll find like some things you won't even have known that it's in the Quran, and just by taking a moment to look through the index here, it's really interesting.
Remember, Sabira, when I saw cucumber in the index of Holy Quran, how excited I was. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize cucumber made it to the index list.
His is actually a really thorough list from all of them that I've seen. I think his index is
Yes.
pretty big, yeah.
Yes, Ali
And
Holy
that's why
Quran, which most of us have, a copy of. He has, yes, one of the most comprehensive lists, and he puts just about anything, and that makes it so much fun, right? To go through.
Okay, and just very quickly, this is the second link. And you can come in here and see by topic. Again, it's sorted alphabetically and you can just click through. And lastly, this was the third link. So you can use this just to get the address of the verses that are interest you and flip back to the Quran that you like to read the translation from, and just use this as a way of finding out where the information is, if that's how you'd like to do it.
Yeah, and these slides will be uploaded on our website, on Ali website. So you will be able to access all these after, inshallah.
Okay, I'm just going back to this the slideshow. Give me a second.
Sure.
Oops. All right, you can see again?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So that's one way to go through it, to actually use the index that's been created. And the other idea that we had is just to be creative, the same way that we kind of did that first activity where you just take some items, or you take one item and you try and think about it, what it would match into, because you're not necessarily going to find every item in the index, although you can find things like cucumber. But if you aren't able to, what else does it match into? So to think about it yourself, what does that come under? And then to be able to go back and look under that theme. And you can do that with a situation, you can do that with a theme. And we're actually going to spend a little bit of time going through an example now, so you can see what we mean. All yours, Najma.
Okay, you want to bring up our item. So we just picked a simple item which we know everybody has in their house, right? A couch. So before I go on to my finding, I just thought I will ask you, what you know, how would you link couches? Like I know there's stuff that's in the Quran about couches, but what comes to mind when you see a couch? What is a couch used for? Or
على الأرائك متكئين.
okay, do you want to translate that for us, Auntie Batul? Yes, okay. Interesting, right? Go ahead, Auntie Batul.
Yeah, so they are resting on that couch. متكئين على, I think something to
Yes,
do with that.
resting, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Sabra, there's some very interesting things coming
Yeah.
up. So comfort,
Yeah.
rest, socializing, yeah, hosting, remember God, sitting, standing, right? So it's not just a couch where I just go and slouch and that's it. I'm, relaxing physically, but um, connecting it to my spirituality as well. Okay, um, very interesting. People in Jannah will be sitting in couches. Yes, Shirvanwanti, that's a very interesting one as well. Okay, Sabra, so I guess we can pull up our verse. So we actually searched it up as couches, right? And because like Auntie Batul said, quoted the verse, and then we know that there's verses about um, the muttaqin reclining in couches in the hereafter. And sometimes Allah uses these items like we know so that we should be able to relate it to ourselves. Okay, so when we're to look at this verse, it's talking about the muttaqin, that one of the things that Allah is going to do is remove whatever rancor there is in their hearts. So whatever negativity is there, whatever bitterness is there in the hearts of the people, and they will be reclining on couches facing one another. Yes, sururim mutaqabilin. Um, Now, some of you mentioned like comfort, rest, right? And when we're to read this verse, the way we expand it, the way we stretch it is that, we look at the couch as something that we're going to go and rest after, like we're tired or we're tired of standing, we'll sit down. And we're trying to get some comfort, but that's the physical comfort, right? This verse is reminding us of an internal, a spiritual comfort, which can be attained from removing anything that's negative in the hearts, right? The term that's used is ghil, and this term ghil has been used in other verses in the Quran as well. Surah Hashr, verse number 10 mentions this as well, where I think it's the Ansar that are making that are praying that wala taj'alu fi qulubina ghillan lilladhina amanu, that do not put any rancor, any bitterness, any negativity in our hearts for those who believe. And this will be one of the gifts. Sabra, you can move on to the next slide so we can look at it in context as well, right? So another way of looking at it is like we got this verse, like we got the word, and then reading maybe a couple of verses before, a couple of verses after gives a wider picture of what Allah is trying to tell us. So again, indeed, the God-wary, the muttaqin, will be amid gardens and springs. They will be told, "Udkhulu bisalamin aminin," enter in it in peace and safety. We will remove whatever rancor there is in their hearts. Intimate like brothers, they will be reclining on couches facing one another. Somebody mentioned like socializing. So, yes, they'll be socializing even over there. Therein neither weariness shall touch them, nor will they ever be expelled from it. So it puts it puts it all in perspective, but also it's a good reminder that that feeling of Jannah can be attained even while we're on this earth, right? That when we have a clear heart and we do not allow, negativity and assumptions and bitterness to bother us, then we're actually exercising spiritual comfort while we are physically comfortable. So you see how the message of the Quran is such: you will take a daily item and you will look at it just as the way it's mentioned, but when you read it in context, you're able to stretch it using your theme of comfort even further, right? peace, comfort. So this is one of the examples that we wanted to share with you from like a daily item. There's tons, right? There's tons, and which is why, Sabira, I'll pass it on to you.
We're ready to go on to the breakout rooms now.
Yes, so which is why we thought we will do something practical. We will allow you to actually go through a practical journey. So we gave you a sample of how we made connections. But I think now it will be, Sabra, I want to go through each of these like items and like.
Yeah, so we are going to be putting you into breakout rooms now for a little bit of an interactive activity where you can try and go through a similar process of what we just did with the couch. So we wanted to do different examples that if you started with the item, you can make your way to finding ayats and then relate it to different themes and different situations. So for one group, we've chosen a plant for you to start with. And then for another group, we've chosen you to start with a theme. So if you started with a theme of time, what else could you think of that might be an everyday item that you have around you that reminds you of that of that theme, and maybe look for ayats going that way? Or can you find ayats by finding something to do directly with time? So again, you can find the ayats whichever way you'd like, but we'd like you to start off with the theme of time. And the third group is going to have a situation. So the situation is lonely, and we thought this matched quite well, especially because during COVID, we've had a lot of time alone, and a lot of people have been in that situation of feeling really alone and really lonely. So what ayats could we find that have to do with that? If you can't find that word directly, lonely, what else can you think of that surrounds that? How can you expand your thinking and then be able to find different ayats that relate to that theme, to that situation?
Okay, so I think we will do 3 breakout rooms, and then Sabra and I will try to go into each breakout room, or like you guys can actually raise your hand if you have a question and you need some guidance. We'll give you about 10 to 15 minutes. Is that good enough? Right? For you to actually go through the exercise. Like I said, this is an interactive course. Go through it practically, and then you can come back and share with us your findings, and I'm sure you will blow us away with the connections that you will make. So I'm just going to
Are there any questions before we open
yes,
up?
and any questions before we break out?
Is it clear?
No questions. That means I think okay, so I'm just going to.
So you're going to let them know room 1 is.
Yes, so room 1 is going to be working on plant, the item. Room 2 is going to be working on the theme time, and then room 3 will be working on the situation. Okay, wait, I'm just going to. Okay. All right, Bismillah. So you should receive a notification to join, and just start joining the room, so you will be part of the room. Just click on join and you will be in.
Should we pause the recording for now while
Yes,
we're.
yes, I will pause it. Thank you for the reminder.
Really put us to task.
Sorry, Auntie Batul, come again?
You put us to task.
I put you to task. We put you to task. That's good. That's very good. Alhamdulillah. We can't wait to hear from all of you. So I guess we'll start in order, right, Sabra?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so we're gonna hear from the plant group. What were your findings? And I think Sister Arifa, you were in that group, and if you can appoint one person to come and like share with us. Group 1.
You could put it in the chat. If
Yes,
you
they can put
don't
it in the
want to.
chat as well. Yes, if you're not comfortable speaking, then just let us know if that's what you're deciding to do. Then maybe we can go to group 2. They can share while you're typing up your findings for us, and then we'll come back to you, right? So we're saving time. Okay. Oh, wow, they have everything on.
Oh, I can see something's
You
coming.
want to read it out?
I can't see it. It shows
Oh, you
blank.
can't see it? Okay, all right. And group 1, please feel free to jump in if you want to, like, let us know why you chose this and all that. So they have chosen a verse from Surah Kahf, verse number 45, which they've actually quoted for us and coined for them the similitude of the life of the world as water, which we send down from the sky, and the plants of the earth mingle with it, and then becomes dry twigs that the winds scatter, and Allah is omnipotent over everything. And then they have, yeah, one of my favorite ones from Surah Hajj, verse number 5, اهتزت وربت وأنبتت من كل زوج بهيج. Allah is the one who has sent down water from the sky, and thereby we produced diverse pairs of plants, azwaj, each separate from the others. Surah Taha, verse number 53. Both mention water coming down before growth. When we look at plants and how they wither away, then are brought back to life, should remind us of the day of judgment and our resurrection. That's fantastic, right? Like, so I'm assuming that you looked at the verses using an index to come up with verses that mention plant, right? Nabat. And then you've connected it to life and death. So again, now we stretched it, right? We've stretched, we've expanded it to to a situation, right? And that's what Allah, He sends these signs and He makes us go through these changes of season so that we actually are able to learn from it. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, or any other group wants to add any expansion on this aspect? No, we're good. Okay, I guess if we have time, we can come back to it. If there's anything else that you wanted to add, group 1. But yes, thank you very much for sharing that and actually like quoting the verses for us so that we're able to read them together, right? Many different types of plants are mentioned in the Quran. Yes, that's right.
You could take that in a different direction, right? You could. Oh yeah.
Yes, tamarisks mentioned in Surah number 34, verse number 16, which is used for medicinal purposes, right? So see how we stretch, like, so now there's all this like all these herbs that are mentioned, right? Like the traditional medicines. It does open up very many channels. There is no doubt about it, right? So everything is there in the Quran. Yes, palm trees, so the dates come in here as well. The coconut, like, we think of coconut trees and we think of a beach, and like everything just kind of comes together when we take one simple word from, and look at the index. And here we are, like, um, like Sister Zishan says, opening up so many channels, right? They provide shade, absolutely. I mean, the furniture that we use, like the wood. So like now that we that's okay, Sister Amira. Thank you very much for joining. So the desk that we're like, use every day, our office desk, our table that we have our dinner on, like the wood. You look at the wood, you think of, um, the tree, and so it brings about so many different connections. Awesome. All right, shall we move on to group 2?
Yes.
Auntie Batul, that's your group.
I think Abida, you present because you have the note.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu
Go ahead. Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum salam.
So basically with time, there were quite a few different themes. I remember one of the girls mentioning first, initially, everybody knows this one, when Allah swears by time, wal asr, and basically showing how time is very important. It's something like Batul said that you cannot get back, and trying to make a connection to some a saying we grew up with was a stitch in time saves nine. So just realizing that time is important, and just do it. And especially for students and things like that, for school and all, we've all realized that procrastination never helps as well, right? So making that connection and reflecting on this verse. Another theme was time is used as a measurement, so in Surah Baqarah, verse 189, and it talks about how the moon is used to kind of give us lunar months, and then it tells us, okay, it's time for Hajj in this month, and all these different sacred months that we go through. So time is also used as a measurement. Another thing is, it was brought up by Batul Bhai that, and this is in Surah Ankabut, I think, verse 5, that Allah, it mentions Allah's appointed time, that final time. So we all have to be mindful of that and prepare for that as well. So that is another one. One that we were all kind of trying to figure out a meaning or the reason for this was in Surah Hadid, verse 16, as such, that is mentioning how time took a toll on people because their hearts were hardened. And so we were just discussing on why they could have faced that as such, the hardening. So I don't know if you can help us kind of understand the time discussion in that verse. It's Surah 57, verse 16.
Time took its toll on them, and so their hearts were hardened, and many of them. So if we were to look at the beginning of the verse, is it not time yet for those who have faith that their hearts should be humbled for Allah's remembrance?
Yeah,
And to the
khushu, and
truth,
there
yeah.
should be khushu and khudu.
Yes, takhsha'a qulubuhum, right? For Allah, and to the truth which has come down to them, and to be not like those who were given the book before, that is the Jews. So if you have Ali Kuli Karai's translation, he has a footnote, and it says that it's referring to the Jews before. Time took its toll on them. So it's talking about how time took its toll on the Jews, and so their hearts were hardened. So I would think that it's talking about, like, when people are stubborn for an extended period of time, and they're just they keep doing the same wrong thing, over time their hearts become hardened, right? Because they've not allowed the word of God to enter it and to absorb it. Again, I will just quickly look at Agapuya's translation, because there it goes like, topic by topic. So sometimes when you look at a verse like that and you're not able to, like, get the context, it's always nice to, go through even simple tafsir, like enlightening commentary. So enlightening commentary, everyone has access to it. It's on alislam.org. If you want, we can then add it onto on chat. Sabra, I don't know if you were able to just get that for us and put it on chat. But simple, just on chat, you can put like a link, and you start reading the occasion of revelation for that verse. Usually, you will tend to find that. So that would be another way of looking. And like we said, right, you look at the context, like a few verses before, a few verses after. That also will help. So see, I open Agapuya here, and just right next to the verse, there is an asterisk, right at passed over them. So again, translations are different, right? So there's those who were given the book before, but when lengthened the ages, passed over them, and then there is an asterisk, and on the side he says in arrogance and disobedience. So this extended period of arrogance and disobedience took its toll on them, and their hearts hardened. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it's very, like, it's not undoable, right? To just extend a little bit and look at, look at the context, look at some of these, simple tafasir that are available, look at, compare different translations, and sometimes one translation may not be able to give you a clearer picture, and so it's a good idea to compare translations. That's something that Sabra and I reiterate every session we do. So I hope that was helpful.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
You're very
And
welcome. Go ahead.
yeah,
please.
and just the last one was Surah 18, verse 48. So Surah of Kahf, and it's basically talking about that we were created the first time, and even relating again to that that we claim, I think this is talking to the transgressors as such, that those who claim that we would never appoint a time for their return. So that denial of that time, and it mentions that we created you the first time. So time in I think it's both beginning and end, kind of like a reflection of your beginning and a reflection of your end. So there are quite a few verses on time, but I think we'll share these many right now. But so this helps us. I think this indexing is helping us see that there's so much to it if you go through it like this. So thank you for taking the time.
You're very welcome. It's amazing, right? When you first start, you're thinking, okay, well, Asr, I know a verse about time.
Exactly, yeah, that's the one that comes.
Yes, yes. But when you start,
it's approached in so many themes, which is very interesting. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, you're very welcome. Okay, we'll quickly move on to group
Thank you, Abida. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you with your encouragement.
Okay, we're ready for group 3. If the third group wants to present, the one that was doing the situation on loneliness, do you have someone you've appointed who's going to share with us, inshallah? Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
So we didn't appoint anybody, but I'll start and present, and then if any of my group members want to jump in and add anything, they can. So our topic was loneliness, and we looked at it. There's a couple of ways you can come at loneliness. The Quran talks about loneliness, and there's many verses pertaining to the darkness that comes with being alone. And there seem to be a lot of verses speaking of darkness. But then we also thought that loneliness may not necessarily be a negative thing, because being alone can give you the chance to strengthen your relationship with God, which actually will bring a lot of light into your life. So I guess it depends on the person and whatever context they might be in at that time. The Quran offers verses for if you're going through loneliness in its negative form, and it offers verses for loneliness, being alone, and looking for more light to come into your life.
Okay, so did you have any particular verses that you wanted to share with the group that if you look, did you look at the index, and did you choose a particular word to look for ayahs? Like, I just interested to know how you guys approached this.
I know someone in our group looked up darkness, and I believe there were verses speaking on that, but I'll let that person maybe speak to it more. With regards to light, I didn't look up light in the index. I was just sort of making a mental connection there that loneliness may not necessarily mean darkness all the time. It could be the opposite. So, but I did not look up any verses about light. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Just that's interesting. I think someone from your group has made a comment here. We started by thinking of a few different words that came to mind regarding loneliness, darkness, peace, friends, and then looked into verses under those, right? So again, you're thinking of different words and looking at it from both aspects, right? That it's a positive thing, it could be a positive thing, or it could be a negative thing, right? So again, it's a personal approach. So one word may hold a different meaning to someone, and opposite meaning to someone else, right? And yet the good thing is that you get answers for that, for both in the Quran, right? The way you look at it.
And I was going to say it could be the same person, but at a different circumstance in life, the way you see things, right? That's why it's so nice to keep doing sometimes the same exercise or looking at the same verses. It just speaks to you in a different way at a different time.
Sure.
And the other thing, the other idea we had on this theme is to try and connect it with one of the stories of the prophets, to try and link it to Prophet Yunus being alone in the whale, or Prophet Yusuf in the well. So linking either to even of the stories of the prophets is a really nice way when you think of one of the themes. There's always some way, I'm sure, that we can think of how these stories connect in.
Great.
Is there anything else this group wants to share?
Yep, I know we're like out of time, but we just have a couple more things to share with you guys if you have time and can stay on. So once we've, once we have found like some of these verses and we want to be able to store them, right? Like we're like, okay, well, we're looking at verses. So what are some of the creative ways that we can take some verses, link it to our everyday objects and actually, um, uh, try to store them somewhere so that they're like a reminder for us, in common areas. So we have examples of like a plant pot here where a verse was painted on it, like verse number 5 of Surah Hajj, like I said, right? 22:5. And then in the eating area, like eat of the good things and act righteously. It reminds us that we're not only getting like our physical nourishment, but it should help us to then act righteously as well. And then another way of doing it is like having like, if you found a verse of the Quran and you want to be able to remember it and remind yourself of it, you would put it up on your, wall maybe where you have like a change of verses every week. And this way you're just enriching yourself with messages from the Quran that are visual, right? So like for example, the one on the right hand side one, Laysa lil insani illa ma sa'a, is a common verse from Surah Najm. And this was done like during like holiday time where everyone wants to just do nothing and just sleep and eat and sit, and yet we complain, right? So then this is like a good reminder that you will not get anything unless you work for it, right? Like the dishes need to get washed, the laundry needs to get done, so different times in life for different reminders. So these are just things we thought we'll share with you, right? Like creative ways of bringing the verses alive into our lives after we have built our Quranic cues and gone through the process. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
We've just
Go
put
ahead,
up.
Sabira.
Yeah, we've just put up some ayats directly linking to each of these items. They'll be available for you into the slides later. I won't go through each of them.
And lastly, we just had a message from the Academy for Learning Islam. First of all, thank you for attending the course. We hope you found it beneficial. Do talk to your friends and families also to participate in other courses that are coming up. If you would like to volunteer in any of the Ali projects, please email alioutreach@gmail.com. Ali is a non-profit organization that tries to, offer all these educational and Islamic programs. So feel free to donate on this link. And if you have any other feedback for the Academy, please send your feedback to director@academyofislam.com. And with that, thank you very much. And these slides will inshallah be available in the next few days. I would say like safely check maybe around Friday or so, just to give us some safe time to. So the recording and as well as the slides will be uploaded on the Academy's website under this course, inshallah. Thank you very much, ladies. And we're around for a few more minutes. So if you have any questions, anything you need to know, or any other tools, something that was not clear, maybe that you needed clarification, please feel free to ask.
Thank you for all your participation. You guys enriched the entire thing for us as well, and we learned so much from you.
That's the fun part, right? Like I think Sabira and I like doing this because then in the process we get to learn so much when we open it up to the participants, because now you've added on to our verse banks. So thank you. Thank you, ladies. Jazakumullah khair.